Thanks for tuning in to Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
And I'm Maul.
And welcome to our NFL episode, week 9 of the NFL season. Thursday night is October 30th, day before Halloween. Got Thursday night game tonight, Ravens at the Dolphins, kicking off the season, kicking off the week in terms of Thursday night games. Ravens come out, get a big win against the Bears, which didn't foresee at all. That was one of the games that I was like, oh, this is the Bears, like perfectly lined up. Pops heard our episode. He is on vacation with his family and told his wife, he's like, I'm gonna go to Baltimore, like this is it, this is where the Bears turn around. And Allie was like, absolutely not, you're staying at home with the kids, like we ain't spending this type of money. And you're right, your wife was right. Glad you didn't spend the money because the Bears looked awful.
No. If he would have went to the game, they would have won.
Oh, yeah.
That's how
your
it
wife
works.
cost you that victory against Baltimore, Pops. Change your tone.
See, I have this fight with my wife every week because I got your back, Pops. Don't worry. I have this fight with my wife every week because she wants to go some pumpkin patch or something. And I'm like, no, I got to watch my fantasy players because that makes them do better. And she's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't change the outcome. But I promise you it does. So I got your back, Pops. Don't let Dutch talk down to you.
I think you said it last year, but that quote you had that was like, it's only during football season that my wife will come up with the absolute dumbest ideas of like, yo, you want to go to a pumpkin patch? What time? Primetime games on Sunday. You're like, oh, okay, cool. And then on the way, you're like, oh, it's $85 a person. You're like, for a pumpkin patch? And you're like, does it include a pumpkin? You're like, no, you got to pay extra for the pumpkin. You're like, what are we paying $85 for it? It was like for the opportunity to take pictures. It's like, who's taking a picture? Oh, I hired a photographer. You're like, what is happening? How did one weekend turn into a $500 loss? Yeah. So, and I missed all the games. Thanks for that. So, Thursday night, Ravens, like I said, big win over the Bears. The Dolphins come out and just, let me tell you, will not trust the Falcons again in anything. They made Kirk Cousins look like the perennial backup. He's like, I'll take my guaranteed money for free.
Dude. He was playing like he's like, don't ever put me on this field ever again. I was fine getting paid to do nothing, and I don't want to do anything.
But like Teddy Bridgewater a few years ago at the Dolphins was like, whatever you do, don't put me back out here.
One snap, I'm injured, take me out.
Baltimore 7.5-point favorites. Supposedly, we thought this last week, but then he went from a full participant at practice to not playing in Lamar. This is Lamar's supposed comeback game, which it's at Miami, which I think is a little bit of caution just because Tua usually plays pretty well in Miami. That being said, I said this last week going into the Bears game, is the Ravens are sort of at this point being 2-5 that it's like, yo, it's either put up or shut up because you either win or you get knocked out of the playoffs. And this is an AFC game, so it does matter. I like Baltimore in the game because of that.
Absolutely. I don't trust. I mean, I trust the Dolphins about as much as I trust the Falcons right now. So they've been too inconsistent for me. We've always thought and kind of known that Baltimore was a good team. Obviously, this year their record's not proving it, but they've had a lot of injuries. Lamar's been out for a few weeks. That obviously hurts. Getting Lamar back, there's nothing special about the Dolphins. Like the Ravens have to win, and we said it last week, and they did. So I do again think they get the victory. You're right, though. The only benefit for the Dolphins is in Miami.
Yeah. Next game, Bears-Bengals. Right now, they're saying Joe Flacco is a 50-50 coin toss in terms of playing in the game, which this one I do feel more confident about, that if he doesn't play and it's Browning, the Bears should win. Chicago right now is a 2.5-point favorite. But if Joe Flacco plays, I like the Bengals in the game.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly how I feel. I've currently got the Bengals picked. But if Flacco doesn't play, that can easily be, I can be swayed otherwise.
My question is, so here, side note, they don't have a timeline yet, but do you believe that if the Bengals are just in contention for a wild card, that Burrow makes a comeback this season?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Next game up, big NFC North game. Vikings, Carson Wentz pulled his best Kirk Cousins, except he said instead of ever giving me an opportunity to play again, I'm going to have shoulder surgery on my non-throwing shoulder. Your boy's done. Not sure if JJ McCarthy is going to play this game or not. Going to Detroit to face the Lions, who just spanked Tampa Bay. Just let them have it. Detroit's 8.5-point favorite, which I feel like is generous towards Minnesota. I really like Detroit by a lot more than 8.5, regardless of who's playing at quarterback. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is one of those they may be given. I mean, if JJ McCarthy comes back, that's better than Carson Wentz, in my opinion. Aaron Jones finally came back, which I'm surprised to say this at this point in the season, but probably an upgrade to Jordan Mason because Jordan Mason just hasn't done anything with that starting role. That being said, that offensive line is not good. Like, not good. It doesn't matter who's back there. The way Wentz was being hit and then the way that both running backs were just not able to get anything going. If anything, the Lions defense is better this week. So they're going to have a really tough time getting anything going offensively. And yeah, the Lions are just clicking right now. So like you said, I think 8.5 is generous. That being said, we always know that like 2-score spreads in the NFL are rare. But at the same time, you could blank them 30-0 and nobody bats an eye.
Yeah. JJ is coming back, so it will be his first start since going on the injured reserve. So we'll find out how quickly he goes back on the injured reserve if Aiden Hutchinson has his way. Speaking of another more than 2-score game in terms of Vegas spread, Green Bay right now 13.5-point favorites against the Panthers. Panthers came out and we were sort of like, man, maybe Rico Dowd comes out and plays well against the Bills. Nope. Bills just absolutely smacked Carolina.
Well, Chuba Hubbard came back, and they were splitting a bunch of time, which we've talked about this, and it seems like some of the NFL, the good teams at least, are catching up to hey, you kind of need the hero RB to really keep things going, and some of these bad teams are just. I get it. You don't want to make Chuba Hubbard lose his job for getting injured, but when you have a guy that's just absolutely cooking, you keep the momentum going with them. And I don't know, honestly, if that would have changed the outcome of the game, but it sure seems a coincidental excuse at this point.
Yeah.
Green Bay is tricky for me. They've proven or they've looked at times to be the one team that's probably going to give the Eagles fits in the NFC. And then other times you're just like, dude, they do not look good. Jordan Love is very up and down right now. He played well against the Steelers. I'll give him that. But he's on multiple occasions has not looked this part of Favre, Rodgers, Love. You know what I mean? Everybody's kind of keeps making that comparison, and I'm not seeing that right now whatsoever. That's not to say that he's bad, but I'm not saying that they found their guy for the next 12 years. I am not that confident right now with Jordan Love.
I can't really say this for any other team in the league. I feel like he is the sole reason that they either win or lose games. Because if he has a bad game, which he did against the Browns, they lost to the Browns. Jordan Love, when he's on a high horse, they come out and they spank Detroit week 1. But then we've also seen super low Jordan Love. And I agree with you in terms of this. I saw the stat last week that every quarterback has won at Green Bay at the age of 27, and he turns 27 this month. So Starr won an NFL championship in 97 or in 67. Favre won his first. Rodgers won his first at the age of 27. So the stars are aligning in Green Bay Packer fans' eyes for this. But from the standpoint of how does that work out in the playoffs, he's got to play perfectly. Like, I think they have really good talent around him, but he's shown that he has the ability to really have some blunders. Now, that being said, they're going to murder the Panthers.
I, you know, murder's a strong word. I was gonna say the same thing of like, don't get me wrong, they're winning this week, but 13.5 is a lot. I would just, I pulled that stat out. This is like a circle back to a few weeks ago of like the double digit favorites this year. Honestly, I think the only ones who haven't covered is the Bills. The Bills have been double digit favorites, I think, twice, and they won both the games, but they did not cover. All the other double digit favorites actually did cover. So take that for what it is. Betting fans. I won't give advice because my advice sucks.
If I learned anything last week, don't bet against if Vegas says they're the favorite, they're probably the favorite for a reason, which we'll talk about that here in a minute because there is one game that I don't like who the favorite is. Chargers, it's not this one. Chargers are 9.5 favorites against the Titans.
God, I hope it's not this one. This is my survivor pick this week. So.
The Titans just, I always like Big Cat on Barstools, his like graph of like, it literally just said, for the love of God, take this team off TV because it's time to put them out of their misery, and it's the Titans because they're unbearable to watch. Like, I like Cam Ward. Like, you can tell he's trying, and they have some players on there. Like, even Calvin Ridley's like making somewhat of a place, but the team is atrocious. Like, it's years of incompetence at drafting guys, letting the wrong guys go away in free agent. Like, everything that you can do from a managerial standpoint of a team. Like, if you wanted to do a case study in 20 years to be like, what's the worst way that you can run an NFL franchise? Like, they're honestly, it's worse than the Browns. Like, at least the Browns have Myles Garrett and they've like made good draft picks. Like, the Titans are horrific in that standpoint. And it's why they're getting murdered.
I will say, if there was a number one guy to pick that like can take this kind of beating and just like duck on the water, go, well, we're just going to try to keep getting better. Cam Ward's the right guy, and it's like you said, like he's doing all he can. And I can't say that he's having great games, but at the same time, like you could put Tom Brady back there, dude, and they're not winning any games. So you're right. Like they're just atrocious. The fact that they beat the Cardinals just makes my Cardinals making the playoffs look even dumber. But at the same time, like if they didn't have a win, I would be a little nervous picking against the Titans every week for my survivor pick because we've talked about like the odds of them losing every game are very slim, but they already got that victory under their belt, so you can chalk up the L's for the rest of the season.
I do want to like bring this up just because there's not a whole lot to talk about the Titans, but it's like another point of emphasis with them. Like, I want you to think about like who they hired. Like, they hire Brian Callahan, who, when you look at his like lifelong coaching stuff, he came off being the Bengals offensive coordinator. And it was like, yes, you had Joe Burrow. And it was like, I don't care who you put in that position. Like, regardless, when Joe Burrow's playing, the Bengals tear it up. Why? You have really two number one receivers. Like, it's really difficult. But like before then, he was like the Raiders QB coach. He was a Lions QB coach in 2016, 2017. He was an offensive assistant with the Broncos when Manning was there. It was like, those jobs are easy. Like, but he was like, when he was with the Raiders, they were terrible. Like, when he was with the Lions, they were bad. Like, this is just one of these ones where like I look at it the same in college now that there's a bunch of college coaches that are being canned, and you know that the NFL is going to do the same thing this offseason. There's a bunch of like guys that are going to end up getting canned. And you sort of look at this like cyclical cycle of like, how did you guys decide to hire this dude? Like, we didn't talk about this on the college episode. We should have, but LSU was we didn't even talk about LSU. Did you see what their governor came out and said? Because I didn't know this, but the governor's like on the board for LSU hiring. He was like, under no circumstance will our athletic director pick the next head coach. And I don't know if you know this, but the athletic director is the same one that hired Jimbo Fisher. So he is responsible for the two highest college buyouts in history, over $100 million combined. It was $70 million with Jimbo and $50 million with Brian Kelly. And he's like, under no circumstance will he pick our next head coach. And
here's an idea. Instead of firing the coach, fire that guy.
Yes. Like, this dude's went 0 for 2, and not just like 0 for 2, but we're talking like historic like 0 for 2s. Like, you picked the worst two coaches ever and paid them way too much money. And I sit back and I look at the same thing with the Titans. It's like, you fired the head coach. Well, then the next person in the same sentence, you've been like, we also fired the guy that hired him and the general manager. Like, I don't understand how teams, you fire this head coach and you're like, yeah, but the guy, he just made a mistake. We're going to allow him to now pick another coach to go hire. That doesn't make any sense in my mind. Like, you need a clean regime change from top to bottom outside of the owner. The owner's always going to stay the same. That's why the Cowboys haven't won since the 90s. Because he's been the GM.
Which, I mean, and who knows, like, this is probably a stretch, but like, I sent y'all the video of Irsay, the new owner of the Colts. Like, is she the one probably day in, day out making decisions? Probably not. She's on the sideline taking notes, right? She doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs. And I'm not trying to like belittle her at all. If anything, it shows her commitment to the organization, and like, she is the top and kind of starting from top down to bottom, going like, look, we're going to do what we need to do to get better. And if I don't know the right decision, I'm going to learn from the people who do know, and we're going to go with that way. And like, who knows if that's kind of the coincidence of why the Colts have the best record in football, but like, it doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I said it. I said, she's only been in the seat less than a year, and she's already better than 90% of the owners out there.
I love everything about her being on the sideline, because at least she's involved. Amazing. Like, she's like, she can't, someone asked her like, hey, why do you have the headset? She's like, I want to know what's going on. Like, me sitting in the box, I'm just being a fan. I want to hear the conversations that are happening. That way, if I ever need to step in as the owner and make a decision, I'm way more informed about what's actually happening in the games. And I think there is a difference. There's this, like, you have that side of an owner that's like, I want to know what's going on, but I'm not interjecting. But then on the opposite end, you have like, you know, Jerry Jones and Pepper with the Panthers, that it's like, I think I'm smarter and I'm not listening. Like, I just think that I know this, and so I'm going to make decisions. And it's like, no, I don't see you with a headset on. Like, I don't see you listening and doing the things that she's doing. Hats off to her. And yeah, here they are going scorched earth. I mean, we haven't got to them yet. They're 7-1. And really, outside of the game with the Chargers, it's really close to being undefeated. Like, the Colts right now, until someone proves them wrong, are the best team in football. And who would have ever thought that when they started the season naming Danny Dimes as starting quarterback? So I'm sure some Giants fans are like, that's true. Saquon and Danny could have had them both. And now we don't have Cam Scatterboo. Yeah, rip. We'll get to that game here in a sec. Falcons, Patriots.
Roll.
Yeah. Falcons, as we said, back-to-back weeks. They lose to the Niners. They lose really got handed by the Niners and handed by the Dolphins. They're 3-4, 1-2. And this is like another one of these like regime changes that I go through. Like, when you look at the Falcons, like, everything about them to me screams like being underprepared. Like, it's not from a standpoint of like they're less talented. Like, they have Bijan, like they have good guys. Like, it's just like when they come out and you look at the offensive and defensive game plan that they put in place, I'm just like, I don't know who coached y'all, but this was atrocious. And they're going against the Patriots, and somehow the Patriots are only a 4.5 point favorite. Like, I love the Patriots in the game.
Talking about rubbing it into New York fans. I mean, the Jets are probably just like, dude, can we just go more than like a couple years without the Patriots all of a sudden being dominant again? Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Because they look good. I mean, they look really good. Drake May is spreading the ball around, and they look tough to beat.
And who's doing it? Vrabel. And who the Titans fire? Vrabel. Like, I just sit back and I go, Vrabel took the Titans to the AFC Championship with Ryan Tannehill.
Dutch is just throwing L's out left and right on a heater.
I just sit back and I'm like, what are we doing? Like
Oprah, dude, you get an L. You get an
Look
L.
under your seat. You're fired. Yeah. Next game, talking about Rip the old Scat Canaboo or Cam Scataboo. Yeah.
The battering Cam.
Yeah. The ankle took a battering.
Dude, you saw it from just the energy level of that team. It just sucked it out of them. Now, I had the Eagles picked in my survivor pick. Never would I ever wish an injury on a player to get a victory. And I think the Eagles would have had it anyway. But man, if that was not the you just killed all of the energy, all of the momentum, any kind of swag that they had, just sucked it right out of that team when Scataboo went down. Which, I hope for a speedy recovery because honestly, they were getting to a team that was fun to watch. From they were playing good football. And I don't know if it was because expectations were so low, but man, think about the difference of level of play from at the beginning of the season with Russ to now you got Jackson Dart and Cam Scataboo, two completely different teams.
All of that, that injury would not have happened if they had called that game correctly. Because what happened just a few plays prior to that was that Jalen Hurts tush push that he sticks the ball out and it gets stripped.
Fumble. Yeah, absolutely.
I could not, and they were the forward progress had stopped. I was like, in what world had
no chance,
dude? That was
no chance.
They got to get this right, dog. It is infuriating.
I know. I'm with you. They're starting to become like the new Kansas City Chiefs with these calls, and it's ruining the game. I am not a ban the tush push. I don't like that.
Just call it right.
It's a football play. If you can't stop it, man up, hit the weight room, be bigger and stronger than them. Because again, it's one of those if it was a cheap play, everyone would do it. And everyone's trying to do it, and they're not doing it as well as the Eagles are. I don't think it should be banned. What I think should happen is call it correctly. And you can't say, oh, well, we can't call it correctly, so then we're just going to ban it. No. How about fire the refs? How about just get a few more cameras? You got $18 trillion as the NFL. Just buy some cameras, put it over the top of the thing when they're lining up, and boom, call it correctly. Have the NFL call in from New York, for God's sakes, and be like, the guard moved early. Overturn the call. That was a fumble. That was an atrocious call, and it did flip the momentum of the game.
Yes, 100%. It just... Your point about the NFL called into that Detroit game and overturned that, and it's if you're going to set that precedent, so you better do it for other things. Because we talked about it a while ago that when there was going to be this renewed scrutiny of the tush push in terms of being offsides, that it was going to become a less of if it just got called correctly, it would be less of an advantage for the Eagles. And I really do think that it changes the outcome of games because these 4th and 1s are not automatic, and it makes it to where the game just plays out differently. In this, I'm not saying the Giants would have won, but who knows what happens with the turnover?
And here's my thing though. You go, oh, forward progress was called, therefore we can't challenge it, and everybody just accepts that. Why? You're telling me you can't look at that camera and say he was still moving forward? We do the exact same thing with fumbles and quarterbacks. Was his hand coming forward or not? You literally just look at the replay. He was still moving forward. Ball was stripped.
Giants ball.
It's a fumble. Because if that was to get a first down or to cross the end zone, you wouldn't have ran in and said, oh, well, his forward progress was stopped, therefore he didn't cross the line. You'd be like, no, he was moving forward, he crossed the line, it's a touchdown. You know what I mean? It blows my mind. There was no whistle
that if that was on the goal line, how that would have been treated.
Yeah, it's baffling that again, you go this is 2025. We've been playing this game for what, 100 years now? And we can't get it right. We still don't have the technology in place to make that call.
Agreed. That being said, I got the Niners over the Giants.
Likewise. Which I will say, if Cam was still playing,
I'd give it the Giants.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, dude, the Texans ran train on that busted out Niners
Yeah,
defense. Like ran train on them. And I even without Cam, I think it's going to be a good game because Jackson Dart is playing out of his mind. Like he is playing exceptional football with the team that he's been given. I don't want to give hope to the Giants fans because like they've probably seen this story before, but I mean going forward, with Malik Neighbors, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatteraboo, like they've got a good defensive front four. Like they've got some hope on the horizon. The season, is probably a wash, but you know what? Like few more draft picks, maybe a trade or two. Giants aren't great in trades, but who knows? They've got some hope, maybe.
I get it. Next game up, Colts go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh comes off the big loss against Green Bay, where their defense, Pittsburgh defense is atrocious. Like in the secondary's bad, which is spells a lot of doom going against Danny Dimes. I mean, their offense has been relentless in the past with Pittman and Downs, and then you throw in Jonathan Taylor's been running out of his mind. I just don't see the Steelers stopping him.
MVP type season, honestly. Like he's not going to get it because he's not a quarterback, but there's going to be the Saquon discussion like last year of like, man, if anyone should get it, he's having a killer season. Killer season.
100%.
Danny Dimes, we haven't really seen a bad game from Daniel Jones yet. He had, I think it was week 3, maybe week 4. He had like an average game. They still won. It's almost like a Carson Beck situation to me. Not like as bad as like turning the ball over 100 times, but like we are all surprised how well Daniel Jones is playing. Let's be honest. I haven't seen the bad game yet. And I feel like it's coming or like he's due, whatever that means in sports. Everybody knows, but like there's something on the horizon where like not that it's gonna like derail their season, but like we're gonna just keep picking the Colts because they're killing everybody. And at some point, there's going to be like a major upset where it's like they come out to the Bengals or something and slip up because Daniel Jones has like a real bad game.
Well, they almost did against the Cardinals. They just found a way to win that game. And you just sort of sit back and we were hesitant to pick them again, and then they keep winning. So it's tough. You talked about the Texans throttling the Niners. They are at home against the Broncos. Houston's a 1.5 point favorite. This is not the game that I disagreed with the spread. But I just sort of sit back and I go, I just don't know how to trust the Houston team. It's like on one hand, they look great. Another week, they look bad.
Your comment about Jordan Love, I would echo that with CJ Stroud. Of like, he had been kind of hurt or wasn't playing, and the Texans. I mean, again, we have the text to prove it, where we're like watching the game, and you're like, dude, the Texans suck. And then they come out and throttle the Niners, and you're like, dude, they look like an all-star team. Like they look like the Texans of like 2 years past. The Broncos the same way though. They're both very up and down teams. So whoever you want to give the favorite to, I could buy either one. The closity of the spread though makes sense because the first 3 quarters against the Giants, the Broncos, awful. They're going to get wiped off the floor. And then they come back and put up like 80 points in the following 3 quarters of, the fourth quarter and then the next couple games. And you're just like, dang, where's that Broncos team? Like if that Broncos team shows up, they're tough to beat. But if the first 3 quarters of Giants Broncos team shows up, Texans are going to win. So this one's really a toss-up coin flip in my mind. If it was in Denver, I would give the home field advantage more to Broncos than I do give the home field advantage to the Texans. That being said, it is in Houston, so call it what you will. I'm gonna take the Broncos in this one though.
Got it. I'm gonna go with the Texans. I don't like the spread, but I'm in that boat of with Patrick Surtain going down. He's probably going on injured reserve for a strained pec. That hurts their defense from a lockdown corner aspect.
100%. I don't know if Nico is coming back though either. So
very true.
I think he was in concussion protocol. I think the last time I checked. I don't know what his status is.
They'll pull a Jackson Dart, go in the tent, pull him out. You go him back in. We just saw Russell Wilson come out. He was trash. Jags Raiders. Jags are 2.5-point favorites. I like the Jags in the game for their defense just because their defense has played exceptionally well. But if you want to give the Raiders a chance, it's because Trevor Lawrence is on the opposite side of the Jaguars.
Yeah, this is one of those like 2 or 3 weeks ago, you would expect the Jags to win by 40, but the standard Jags offense shows up, and I'm a little surprised. I think the Jags are a better football team than, would you say, 2.5 over the Raiders?
Yeah.
Because the Raiders are just, they are not playing good football on either side. But we kind of knew that about the Raiders. So I'm taking the Jags.
Well, we saw the Spencer Rattler age come to an end, and now it's Shuck coming in for the Saints. And I think that the spread on this one is accurate. It's the highest spread of the week, 14.5-point favorites, which is huge for the Rams. But I watched Shuck last week when he came in backup action. It's going to be a long day. If it looks anything like it did against Tampa, it's going to be a long day against that Rams defense. I feel bad. That's all I really got to say. This is, get ready for some brown paper bags.
Yeah, I mean, even with Spencer Rattler, I mean, the Rams are a tough matchup right now. Stafford's having a great year. I think Puka might be coming back, so they're clicking on all cylinders. And the Saints are just, yeah, they're a bad team. Shuck's not going to give them a boost. It's one of those like Arch Manning, Texas things that we talked about. Like there was a reason he was backing up Quinn Ewers, right? Like there's a reason Shuck wasn't starting over Rattler. So is this move beneficial for the team? I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing at this point. But
I think that this move
Rams
is
easy.
We're
pick.
trying to figure out if Shuck's any good because we're going to be vying for a number one pick. We got to figure out, is this guy anything that we thought of him as a first round pick? That's what my opinion is. The spread has changed. It was the one game that I disagreed with. Buffalo was the favorite at home, and it's now Kansas City -2.5, which that was the one that I was going to hop on and say, if anyone was going to win this game, it's going to be the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to murder the Bills. I would love for the Bills to win. I don't see it. Kansas City's playing too good. I know it's at Buffalo. I know Buffalo just beat Carolina, but if you look at the games that Buffalo's dropped in some of their closer games, they struggle against a good team. Like Atlanta tore them up. I mean, Drake London had almost 175 yards in receiving in the first half. Now, I know Isaiah Pacheco's hurt, and that hurts Kansas City from a rushing attack, which the Bills have a problem. It's going to be the Kareem Hunt show. But with all the speed they have with Worthy, Rashee Rice, Kelsey, I don't see it. I don't see how the Bills slow down the Chiefs in this game. I like Kansas City by way more than 2.5, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to defend the Bills just to play devil's advocate. I like the Chiefs in this game because they are playing more complete football. That being said, the Bills are still a good team. They've shown weaknesses, which I think Kansas City can exploit. But I don't think the Chiefs are just like coming out and killing teams. Like they were clearly better than the Commanders on Monday night, but they didn't really like run away with the game. They weren't in any real trouble of losing it, but like for how bad the Commanders were playing, like without
Jaden Daniels.
Without Jaden Daniels, you know what I mean? Like I feel like if Jaden Daniels was in that game, it's probably a close game, which again kind of just goes like the Chiefs are good, but they're not this like crazy dominant team. I do think they win against the Bills just because of the weaknesses that you talked about. Like Mahomes should light them up, but I think it may be closer than you're expecting.
I hope so, but I don't see it. Ed Oliver tore his pec. He's done for the season. The Bills' defense is their linchpin. Like it's just
what's the Chiefs can't run the ball though. Like that's a problem. So if they come up with a good scheme to like stop the pass, which they haven't been able to yet this season, like the Chiefs aren't going to beat them with the ground game. What's the weather like? Do you know what the weather like? Because if the weather is not conducive for passing conditions, which November in Buffalo is a possibility, that may be the thing that like gives Buffalo the
I'm
edge.
pulling it up right now. It says it's going to be 47 degrees. I'm just trying to get to the daily. As I fight through ads. Sorry.
You know what I mean? Like if the not that they will like only run the ball, but like if the Chiefs can't pass the ball effectively and they're kind of forced into running the ball, they can't run the ball well. And that will give the Bills the edge in that game. Looks like we lost Dutch there for a second, so I'll keep going kind of without him solo there since we're moving on. Some games we haven't covered yet. I think the last one is Sunday night, which is the Seahawks and the Commanders, which the Seahawks have been super dominant. The Commanders, to tag along with the Jaden or the Jordan Love and the CJ Stroud conversation of they're obviously a completely different team, which makes sense without their starting quarterback, but they really depend on Jaden Daniels being back there. And even with Jaden Daniels, they haven't been the same Commanders team of last year. I just think the Seahawks are just too much on both sides of the ball. They're playing very complete football offensively and defensively. Again, surprisingly, only a 2.5 point line. That makes me think that Vegas is confident Jaden Daniels is coming back, which probably drives the close line. The Seahawks, Darnold's playing out of his mind. The only thing I think I'd say weakness wise on the Seahawks is their running game. They're doing the split back thing with Walker and Charbonnet. And I don't know if it's out of necessity or if they just don't know which one is better, but they haven't really let either one of them get going. They haven't necessarily needed to because Darnold is playing so well with JSN and Cooper Kupp and all those guys. But I think the Seahawks are just going to be too much for the Commanders on Sunday night. Washington has the advantage that it's at home for them, which is a long travel from the West Coast for the Seahawks. But again, I think the Seahawks are going to take this one. Moving on to Monday night, Cardinals, Cowboys. Cowboys are another one of those teams, very up and down. They've on occasion, offense has looked like a Super Bowl winning type offense with just everybody clicking. They got CeeDee Lamb back and looked amazing, and then they come out against the Broncos and not lay an egg, but again, just like in no business or in no threat of ever winning that game really. So that being said, the Cardinals on more than one occasion have just looked absolutely awful. If my prediction of them winning or getting into the playoffs is going to come true, they kind of have to win this game because they've dropped too many recently, and starting 2-6 is not going to get you into the playoffs. But I like Dallas in this one just because Broncos D is pretty decent. And that's kind of what helped shut down Dallas. And the Cardinals don't have a good defense. So they're going to rely on their offense, which, Dallas's defense is pretty bad. So they may score some points. I don't know what the over-under is, but I would be looking at the over at 53. That's kind of a lot. But I can see a lot of points being scored in this game as well.
Sorry, I'm back.
We got Dutch back.
Lost signal.
That's all right. I just moved on with you. I talked about kind of the rest of the Bills, possibly being, the only advantage is if they can force Kansas City to run the ball. I talked about the Washington Commanders versus the Seahawks. Seahawks got a long travel. The line is close, which I think is a little surprising. And I was saying I think just Vegas probably thinks that Jaden Daniels is coming back, and that's why the line is close. But I got the Seahawks in that one. What are your thoughts?
I like Seattle. Scary Terry's out, and I think that when he's out, it does change the dynamics of the game. And Debo cost them 7 points on that opening drive, letting that ball bounce off the front of his face. Just little things like Washington's clearly not the team that they were last year. It reminds me a lot of like when the Texans made the playoffs year one with Stroud, and then year two, you were just like, dude, where is this team? And it was like, dude, when you really go back, they got fortunate to get into the playoffs. The Commanders, like Hail Mary against the Bears, Jalen Hurts gets injured and they had to play against Kenny Pickett. Like they won games that they needed to, but it was sort of like this like fool's gold that you really thought you had in a team, and I just haven't seen anything like that from them. And it doesn't help that Jaden Daniels is injured. And then with Dallas, I like the over in the game. I know 53.5 is a lot, but that Dallas team got scorched by the Broncos, and I can see the Cardinals putting up 30 points in this game. I can see Dallas doing the same. Like I think it's going to be a shootout. I like Dallas just from the shootout numbers because I don't trust the Cardinals. But I can see if you're a fantasy owner or Trey McBride, my man's going to have like a 30-point game that's tied in this week. That's my opinion.
Yeah, one thing you said about the Commanders from last year as well, and I think it's one of those like recency biases, like still stuck in our head, is that they beat the Lions in the playoffs. And again, that's one of those like you're not taking it away from them, but like you play that game 10 times, and that's probably the only one that they win. But because they did win, we have this like implanted in our brain that the Commanders are this like top-notch threat every week, and they just haven't shown it this year. Even with Jaden Daniels in the lineup, they've shown weaknesses on both sides of the ball.
The thing I would go back to that NFC Championship game, and it's not trying to take anything away from the Commanders. At that point, pretty much Detroit was playing with they were playing with guys who had not played that season on defense. Like,
yeah, their defense was decimated.
Yeah, they lost pretty much a starter at every single position. It just atrocious. Aiden Hutchinson wasn't playing. All different linebackers, corners were different. Everything was different. Then you look at Goff has a bad game, and I really think that pick six that he got hit in the helmet, and they were like, "Yo, that should have came back." Like there were just like certain plays, like if a flag had been thrown there, I just think it changes the vibe of the game. Like a pick six is just a hard one to come back from. It was clear that the Lions could score in that game. It was just like their defense couldn't keep up, which was a huge part of the reason. It's not saying that flag would have changed the outcome. I just think it makes it closer. The result, we only look at the result and we don't look at the context of which it occurred. And you sort of go, if the Lions play the Commanders today, Lions belt, taking the belt to them.
Yeah, more than one score.
So, but outside of that, sorry the connection went out, but that wraps up week 9 unless you got anything else.
That's it.
All right. Well, time to pull chalks. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.